I just wanted to read a little bit about an essay I wrote in college about disability and gender. Unfortunately, social justice advocates and feminists have not put much effort into advocating for disability rights issues. Feminists have often left women with disabilities out of the activism, and they're perceived as helpless and submissive, and the face of the movement tends to place more aggressive females at the head. There is some advocacy for trans and intersex individuals, which are definitely identities that are considered to be disabled, whatever that means. But this is done because their discrimination is so obviously a gender and sexuality issue. Even still, those individuals have to fight to get their voices heard in feminist movements. People with other disabilities are pretty much left out of the conversation as a whole, which means that rallies, protests, and events surrounding feminism and activism are often not accessible, limiting disabled voices and narratives from being heard and perpetuating this cycle of silence about disabilities. A disabled activist once mentioned that they had to stop attending protests because of the physical labor and assumed fitness or ableism it ascribes to, and because leadership could not provide information on accessible routes. This has been a theme echoed at most events, and the only way for this to change is for organizers to include people with disabilities in the planning of events. Outside of inaccessible protests and activist events, disability also leads to different outcomes and social roles for women than men, making disability justice very much a women's issue. Intersectionality and other feminist theories, although very relevant to disabilities, do not often get used to examine the oppression of people with disabilities, which is ignorant to the role that gender plays in disability. Being a female in itself is historically regarded as a disability, with Aristotle saying, "Women are nothing but mutilated males," and the people perceiving femininity as a weakness. Disability also intersects with every aspect of one's life, making it very relevant when looking at things that affect women. As feminist scholar Rosemary Garland Thompson put it, considering disability sheds light on feminist concerns as the politics of appearance, the ethics of selective abortion and genetic testing, the relation between femininity and embodiment, the commercialization of health and fitness, issues regarding caretaking and caregiving, the surgical normalization of bodies, specifically like intersex individuals, as well as the ideology of normalcy, reproductive rights and responsibilities, the stigmatizing of age and aging, and the politics of access and inclusion. Disability can also be seen with a queer theory lens. There is not a binary term in terms of ability. You're not either disabled or not disabled, since there are different levels of ability. Some people with disabilities do not see themselves as being disabled because of the level of severity of the condition, the stigma surrounding being disabled, or because disabilities naturally appear as age and it's considered normal. A lot of people choose not to identify as being disabled because they may not visibly appear disabled, or don't suffer from ableism on a day-to-day basis like others do. By labeling themselves as disabled, they can essentially be outing themselves and may be treated differently. Disability can also be examined from a social constructivism lens, as disability is socially constructed. Someone in a wheelchair is not really disabled if they have the appropriate accommodations, and only become disabled when the environment changes to deny those with accommodations. Relating to the feminist concept of desirability politics, people with visible or disfiguring disabilities tend to be the most excluded, often deemed as ugly and unwanted. This leads to forced or coerced surgeries for intersex individuals or people with disfiguring disabilities in order for them to lead a normal life, although surgeries serve only to help improve visual appearances. The feminist theories listed here, such as intersectionality, queer theory, social constructivism, and desirability politics, seem to make more sense once applied to disability, and not including the lens of disability limits who is included in feminism as a whole.